Discover the amazing heartwarming safari adventure that changed Ginger's life forever. In the sleepy streets of Maplewood, Ohio, 35-year-old Ginger wheeled her cart down the grocery store aisle, her heart heavy yet hopeful. She juggled 2 jobs, one at the local diner, the other stacking shelves, but her greatest achievement was her 10-year-old daughter, Lily. Every night, as she watched Lily's bright eyes light up with dreams of faraway places and wild adventures, Ginger felt the weight of her struggles lift just enough to remind her that hope existed. One evening, word spread around town about the community fundraiser for local veterans. It was a big deal. The grand prize? A trip for 2 to an exotic safari in Africa. Ginger's heart raced as she imagined sharing that experience with Lily. The mere thought of elephants roaming freely and the sun setting over the savannah ignited a fire in her spirit. What if? She could barely contain her excitement, her heart pounding as she began to plot how she could make this dream a reality. Determined, she poured every ounce of energy into her famous pecan pies, baking by day and serving customers by night. The warm aroma of sweet, buttery crust filled her tiny kitchen as Lily helped, licking the spatula and giggling each time their pie earned praises from friends and neighbors. They sold dozens, saving every penny, even borrowing some from her well-meaning brother. It felt like they were building their own tiny slice of paradise. Finally, the day of the fundraiser arrived. As the community gathered, Ginger's heart fluttered with anticipation. When they announced the winners, Ginger and Lily stood, hands clasped tightly. Tears of joy streamed down Ginger's face when their names echoed through the crowd. They had won. It was like winning the lottery, a dream come true. As Ginger looked at Lily's beaming smile, she saw a future full of possibilities. Their bags were packed with more than just clothes. They carried hope, adventure, and love. They flew thousands of miles, their hearts racing with the thrill of discovery. But as their jeep rumbled over dusty trails, excitement turned to horror when they witnessed the harsh reality of poaching. Majestic animals fell victim to greed, and Ginger's heart broke. They teamed up with local conservationists who shared the truth of the vulnerable wildlife around them. Days flew by as they called attention to endangered species, and Ginger felt an unexpected fire raging within her, a familiar battle mirroring her daily struggles back home. Here in this wild land, she stood for something greater than herself, teaching Lily to advocate for what was right. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As they documented the plight of endangered animals, choosing what to share became an aching dilemma. Ginger could ride the wave of social media fame, possibly saving lives. But it came at a personal cost, one that might put her and Lily in danger. Choice after choice reflected the battles of her daily life in Maplewood: dignity over ambition. At that critical moment, standing amidst the beauty and destruction, Ginger felt the thrum of her heartbeat echo in her ears. Should she choose the path of comfort and safety, or stake her claim on doing good? With time running out, the choice she made threatened to rewrite the narrative of their lives. Would she embody true courage for her daughter, or find herself retreating back to the familiar struggles of a mother just trying to get by? The weight of the world pressed heavy upon her shoulders as she stood at the crossroads, poised to define not just this adventure, but who they would be when they returned home. Ginger couldn't shake the knot in her stomach. The sounds of the savannah buzzed around her, the distant calls of birds, the rustle of grass in the warm breeze, but all she could think about were the choices lying before her. Lily tugged at her shirt, her 2 big eyes brimming with both excitement and concern. "Mom, what's wrong? You look kinda scared," she said, her voice small and trusting. Ginger knelt so she was eye to eye with her daughter. "I'm just thinking," she started, searching for the right words. "You know how we talked about helping animals? It's a big deal. But it could be dangerous too. We need to be careful." Lily's brows furrowed, her innocence battling the seriousness of her mother's tone. "But we can help them, right? Like we said in the Jeep." She smiled, a small but mighty beacon of hope. A weight in Ginger's chest eased just a little. "Yes, we can help them," Ginger agreed, her voice steadying. "But we have to be smart about how we do this. With resolve, they made their way to a nearby camp where local conservationists were gathering for an urgent meeting. The tent was filled with passionate voices, each one a lifeline to the animals they aimed to protect. Ginger felt a rush of adrenaline as they entered, her spirit ignited by the collective fight for justice. As they joined the discussion, the group shared stories that both inspired and weighed heavily on Ginger's heart. Families who had lost loved ones to poaching, elephants that roamed free now reduced to mere memories, and the ever-growing demand for illegal wildlife products. When it was Ginger's turn to speak, her voice trembled slightly. "I came here to show my daughter the beauty of this place, but I didn't expect to see this," she said, her eyes scanning the faces of the other attendees. "What if we could use social media to make a difference? To reach people who may not even know this is happening?" A murmur rippled through the gathered crowd. Ginger could sense the shift, ideas sparking like dry grass in a fire. They began brainstorming, faces lighting up with adrenaline as they discussed using the images and videos they had captured to raise awareness. Ginger's pulse quickened as they sketched out plans, and yet, as the reality of their mission sunk in, she felt that familiar weight returning to her shoulders. What if something went wrong? What if they drew dangerous people's attention? She couldn't afford to let that be the cost of their adventure. But hadn't they already come too far? As they sat down to draft a campaign, Lily leaned over, whispering, "Mom, are we really going to help?" Ginger took a deep breath, swallowing back doubt. "We are, sweet pea. But it's going to take courage. And we have to be ready for anything." That night, as they lay beneath a blanket of stars, Ginger felt Lily snuggle close, comforted by the warmth of their shared dreams. The sky above them felt infinite, just like the possibilities ahead. But now, the enormous responsibility of their choices weighed heavily, casting a shadow over the light of hope that had lit their way. The next day would come with new decisions, and Ginger could sense the stakes rising. Would the danger pull them apart or unite them further in their fight for change? As she stared into the swirling cosmos, she whispered a silent prayer for guidance. Little did she know, a storm was brewing, and choices awaited that would test the very fabric of their bond. As dawn broke, would she find the clarity she needed, or would the path ahead lead them into unforeseen peril? The morning sun peeked over the horizon, flooding the savannah with a warm golden glow. Birds chirped cheerfully, and a gentle breeze rustled the grass, but the weight of responsibility in Ginger's heart felt heavier than the approaching heat. She wrestled with 1,000 thoughts spiraling in her mind as she watched Lily bounce in place, her innocent enthusiasm radiating with each new creature they spotted. "Look, Mom! A giraffe!" Lily squealed, pointing at the majestic animal sipping from a waterhole. Ginger managed a smile, feigning lightness, but the truth was, she felt like she was walking on a tightrope stretched tight between fear and hope. They headed back to the camp, armed with the mission to launch a social media awareness campaign. The tent was already buzzing, conservationists sharing excitement and ideas like wildfire. Ginger could feel the palpable urgency in the air. They needed to act fast, but at what cost? As more plans developed, Ginger noticed two figures lingering on the edge of the tent. They stood apart from the discussion, murmuring sharply. Their faces were hardened, and their eyes concealed beneath the brim of worn hats. An instinctive unease flickered in her gut. She nudged Lily knowingly, whispering, "Stay close." Lily nodded, her demeanor shifting subtly. There was something about those shadows that felt ominous, like a storm cloud hanging just out of reach. "Ladies and gentlemen," boomed Dan, one of the lead organizers, gaining everyone's attention. "We have an opportunity to make a big impact, but we need to be cautious. We'll be sharing information about the poachers in the area." The crowd murmured with concern. Ginger felt the gloom deepen as Dan continued, "Keep your phones charged, share responsibly, and don't put yourselves in danger." But in that moment, the figures outside the tent shifted just slightly, their gaze assessing the crowd, and Ginger's heart raced. What if the very people they were trying to protect the wildlife from were watching? Lily suddenly pulled on her arm, eyes wide. "Mom, are they bad people?" Ginger knelt down again, her heart panting. "I don't know, sweetheart. But we have to stay sharp and look out for one another." As the meeting wrapped up, an unexpected wave of fear washed over her. Would they be strong enough to combat the dangers ahead? She knew they had to take action, but her instinct told her that they were about to tread into deeper waters than they anticipated. "I'll stay with you, Mom," Lily said, her small voice steady. We can do this together. With a determined glance, Ginger took her daughter's hand, squeezing it tightly. Together she echoed, even as an icy shiver ran down her spine. They faced the unknown as one. Walking back to their tent, a dim shadow slipped through the grass. Ginger's heart raced again as she caught a glimpse of something glittering just out of view. It felt like a warning, a sign of what might await them in the chase for truth and justice. In that moment the world quieted, and all she could focus on was the small palm nestled in hers, a fragile thread connecting their destinies. What awaited them beyond the horizon? Would they rise to the challenge or find themselves lost in the tide of a battle they weren't prepared to fight? The echo of danger loomed closer with every heartbeat. The question was clear. Would they be prepared for what the next turn would bring? Or would their mission lead them into uncharted peril? The afternoon sun bore down, its heat creating waves that shimmered in the distance. Ginger felt the intensity rising within her, and yet it felt as if time had slowed down. She and Lily arrived at their tent, but the air felt different, laden with unspoken fears. "Mom, can we go see the animals again?" Lily's voice broke into Ginger's thoughts, and for a moment the worry washed away. The innocence in her daughter's eyes was the kind of simple joy that reminded Ginger of why they were fighting for these creatures. "Sure, let us take a quick walk," she said, forcing a smile. They headed out toward an open plain, the golden grass stretching far into the horizon. As they strolled, Ginger kept scanning their surroundings, ever wary of the shadows that had unsettled her earlier. "Look, there's a herd of zebras," Lily exclaimed, pointing at the striped animals grazing nearby. Their contrasting black and white patterns danced in the sunlight, and Ginger felt a tug of appreciation for nature's wonders. She smiled at Lily, trying to push the unease aside. "Isn't it beautiful?" she said, kneeling down beside her daughter, who was crouching to get a closer look. "It is. But do you think they are safe?" Lily asked, looking up with wide eyes that sparkled with curiosity but also worry. Ginger's heart sank. How could she reassure her? The reality of poaching loomed like a dark cloud. "I hope so, sweetie. That's why we have to do our part." Ginger felt the weight of those words press down. She wanted to protect not just the animals but also Lily's belief in the goodness of the world. Just then, a rustle in the bushes caught her attention. Ginger straightened, instinctively placing herself between the sound and Lily. The moment hung thick with uncertainty. Then out stepped a young boy, no older than 10, with wild hair and dirt-smeared clothes. He stared at them with a mix of fear and curiosity. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Ginger's heart softened. "We're friends. We're here to help the animals," she replied gently, kneeling down to meet his gaze. "They're in trouble," the boy said, eyes wide with urgency. "You have to be fast. They come with guns, they take them away." A chill ran through Ginger. This boy knew what she had feared. The poachers were a real threat, and here he was, a brave little messenger capturing the painful reality of their mission. "Who comes?" She kept her voice steady, but inside her heart raced. "There are 2 men. They wear masks and carry guns. They come at night." He looked behind him as if worried they were being watched. "We have to warn everyone." Ginger felt her stomach drop. Time was slipping away and danger was closing in. She grabbed Lily's hand, holding it firm, as a wave of urgency washed over her. "Thank you," she said to the boy, feeling the weight of his words settle in. "You've helped us." They needed to gather the team and prepare. "Can you go back home?" He nodded and dashed off, the dust flying behind him as he disappeared into the thickening brush. "Mom, what did he mean?" Lily's voice quivered slightly, a mix of confusion and concern. Ginger inhaled deeply, bringing herself to meet Lily's gaze. "It's nothing we can't handle, honey. But we need to take this seriously." As they turned back toward the camp, purpose surged through Ginger. They had to act quickly. They weren't just fighting for the animals anymore. They were safeguarding everyone, including the little boy who had risked so much to warn them. As they approached the tent, Ginger felt a surge of adrenaline mixed with fear. They were about to enter a fight that would test every fiber of courage within them. They wouldn't just protect the wildlife. They'd protect their community, their family. The mission had become a matter of life and death. But just before reaching the entrance, a deep rumbling caught her attention. It felt ominous, warning her that they were not alone. The shadow was back, and it was closing in fast. What would they find waiting for them once they stepped inside? Ginger felt a knot tighten in her stomach. The deep rumbling echoed like thunder, foreboding and heavy in the still air. She looked down at Lily, who stood wide-eyed, clutching her hand. "Stay behind me, okay?" Ginger whispered, her voice steady despite the rising fear inside her. Lily nodded, her little fingers gripping Ginger's tightly as they stepped toward the tent entrance. The shadows danced around them, thick and foreboding, and with every step, Ginger's mind raced. Had the boy been right? Were the poachers really so close? As they crossed the threshold, the sun cast long shadows within the tent, and for a second all was quiet. There were no animals, no laughter from fellow volunteers. Just the eerie sound of their own breaths. "Where is everyone?" Ginger murmured. She felt the need to say something, anything to reassure Lily. But a creeping sense of dread erased all her attempts at comfort. Suddenly, a flurry of movement came from the back. A few fellow volunteers emerged, faces taut with anxiety. Alex, their team leader, rushed forward, his expression alarmed. "Ginger, thank goodness you're here," he exclaimed. "We need to talk. Things are worse than we thought." Ginger's heart raced. "What do you mean?" "There are reports of poachers moving in faster than we anticipated. They've already taken some of the smaller animals, and the word is they'll be here tonight." He glanced at Lily, then back at Ginger. "We have to get everyone on alert right now." Lily's small voice piped up. "But we can't let them hurt the animals." Ginger knelt to reassure her. "I know, sweetheart. That's why we're going to help. It's what we do." The determination in her heart was mixed with fear, but she couldn't show that to her daughter. "Alex, what's the plan?" "We need to fortify the perimeter. Use what we have. We'll split into two groups, one to monitor the southern edge, and another to check the eastern border. If we can keep watch, we might be able to intercept them before they reach the animals." "Let us do it," Ginger said, her voice rising with resolve. But just as they began to mobilize, the deep rumble returned, louder this time, vibrating through the ground. "What is that?" Alex asked, shifting uneasily. Before Ginger could respond, a stampede of animals erupted from the bushes, a wave of panic as they rushed toward the camp. Zebras, antelopes, and even a few gazelles flung themselves into the open plain, eyes wild with fear. "It's the poachers," Ginger realized. They were driving the animals, pushing them closer and closer to the refuge. "Get to safety," she shouted, her heart pounding. "We need to protect them." In a flurry of action, the volunteers sprang into motion. Ginger's instincts kicked in. She dashed alongside Alex, shouting commands to keep everyone focused. Lily, still close by, watched wide-eyed as chaos unfolded. "Mom, what do we do?" Ginger could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. "Stay with me, Lily. We'll keep them safe." With every animal that bounded past, Ginger's heart ached for their terror. They were not just creatures caught in a stampede. They were living beings she had fought so hard to protect. As the last of the animals rushed by, the clamor faded, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. "Did they see us?" Alex panted, looking back toward the tent. "I don't know." Ginger paused, dread curling in her chest. "But if they're driving the animals this way, they must be close. We need to be ready." An urgent truth loomed before them: tonight would change everything. Just as they began to regroup, the ground shook again, something larger approaching, something that felt dangerously close. "Mom, look!" Lily cried, pointing over Ginger's shoulder. Turning slowly, dread washed over her. Were those figures moving in the distance? And why did her pulse quicken so fiercely as she faced the inevitable? The moment of truth was approaching. What would wait for them on the other side of that horizon? Ginger's heart pounded in her chest as she stared at the figures on the horizon. They were closer now, real and ominous, advancing toward the camp with a predatory grace. Fear coiled tightly in her gut. "What are those?" Lily whispered, peeking out from behind her mother's leg. "They're just silhouettes right now," Ginger said, but the quiver in her voice betrayed her. "We need to get ready." The volunteers hurried around them, setting up makeshift barricades and looking for anything that could serve as a weapon. Ginger grabbed a large branch, feeling its weight in her hands. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. "Alex, what do we do if they get too close?" she asked, her eyes darting toward Lily, who was still watching with wide, innocent eyes. "They won T," Alex said, a fierce determination in his voice. "We won T, let that happen. We'll hold the line. Just stay alert." Ginger nodded, but her mind was racing. The lives of the animals depended on them. They had to protect their sanctuary. As the figures loomed larger, Ginger recognized them. The poachers' men with dark, threatening faces, moving swiftly yet stealthily through the tall grass. Her breath caught as she spotted shimmering metal pieces. A glimmer of fear sparked into reality. "Everyone stay sharp," Ginger shouted. Her voice broke the stillness, sparking a newfound urgency among the group. "We have to stick together. We can't let them breach the perimeter." Lily's grip tightened around her mother's hand. "Mom, I'm scared," she admitted, her voice close to breaking. Ginger knelt to her level, meeting her gaze. "I know, sweetheart, but we're going to be brave. We're all here together, and we will do everything we can to keep everyone safe." Lily's eyes shimmered with tears, but she nodded, her little face firming in resolve. Ginger felt a swell of pride, even amidst the chaos. Bang! The sound of gunfire pierced the air like a slap. The group from the southern edge yelled out, the fear in their shouts echoing through the camp. Ginger's heart dropped as adrenaline surged. The poachers had arrived. A few of the volunteers took off towards the southern edge, but Alex shouted for them to stand their ground. "We need to stick together. They're trying to scatter us." Ginger gripped Lily's hand tighter, ready to spring into action. "Let us get to the front," she urged, leading Lily quickly but cautiously. As they hurried toward the chaos, Ginger heard the cries of frightened animals in the distance. It cut deep, igniting a fire within her. She had to stand her ground for the animals, for Lily, for everyone she loved. They reached the edge of the camp, the dim light of the setting sun bleeding red into the sky, heightening the danger that loomed ahead. The poachers, now only a few yards away, paused. There was a moment, a heartbeat, when time seemed to freeze. Strangers on the brink of chaos, both parties weighing their next moves. Ginger could see their cold, calculating eyes fixated on the refuge behind her, their motives clear. It was a standoff in the fading light of day. "Ginger!" Lily cried suddenly, breaking the tension as she pointed ahead. "Look!" A small trembling fawn had detached itself from the stampede, dazed and alone. It stood just beyond the line of barricades, confusion etched into its tiny face. Ginger felt her heart shatter at the sight. In the next moment, everything changed. A powerful thought rang through Ginger's mind. What kind of world would let fear dictate their actions? Maybe it was time to fight back in a way they never anticipated. "Stay here," she commanded Lily, and turned to face her team and the advancing poachers with fierce resolve. The night was still and charged with possibility. One decision, one act of bravery, would it turn the tide? As she stepped forward, her courage rising in her throat, Ginger felt every heartbeat synchronize with the fight inside her. She took a breath, ready to face what lay ahead, but deep inside she wondered. What if this wasn't just about saving the animals anymore? What if it was about standing for something bigger than herself? What if, in this fight, she would discover the true strength she had never known she possessed? Ginger's mind was racing as she faced the approaching threat. The poachers stood before her like a wall of darkness. In their eyes she saw greed and a willingness to destroy everything she cared about. But she couldn't back down now. Not when the fawn stood helpless just beyond her. The feeling of uncertainty was suffocating, yet a spark of resolve ignited inside her. "Alex!" she shouted over the rising chaos. "Prepare to hold the line. We need a distraction." Alex's eyes widened in understanding. "On it!" he yelled back as he signaled to a few volunteers near him. Ginger turned to the others, her heart surging with purpose. "We need to get that fawn. We have to rescue it before it gets hurt." Her pulse quickened at the thought of the innocent creature caught in the crossfire. They were fighting for more than their sanctuary, they were fighting for lives. The volunteers quickly gathered, readying themselves for the task. Ginger took a deep breath and finally shouted, "Now!" A chorus of branches and rocks was hurled toward the poachers, creating enough noise and distraction to draw their attention. The unexpected barrage startled the men, who turned, their eyes blazing with anger and confusion. "Lily, stay close and be ready," Ginger instructed, her grip tightening on her branch. The group surged forward, moving in a desperate wave towards the fawn. Ginger's heart raced. Every single step felt like a lifetime. Adrenaline coursed through her veins as she and Alex sprinted forward. "Mom!" Lily's voice was a mix of fear and excitement. "We're almost there, honey. Keep your eyes on me," Ginger called back, unwilling to look away from the helpless fawn even for a second. As they got closer, Ginger spotted a poacher leering down at the fawn, a gun slung over his shoulder. Time slowed as her heart sank. This was it, she had to make a choice. Charge forward and risk leaving Lily behind, or remain calm and calculated. The fawn needed saving, but so did her daughter. "Lily, hide behind those bushes," she commanded, pointing to a thick patch of foliage just off the path. The little girl nodded, eyes wide but determined, and dashed for cover. Ginger swiftly turned her attention back to the fawn, momentum building inside her. "Hey!" she shouted, her voice echoing in the tense air. "Leave it alone." The poacher whipped around, surprise etched across his face. For a brief moment confusion reigned, a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. Ginger seized this chance. She lunged toward the fawn, her heart soaring with hope. Without warning, the other poachers spotted her. One of them raised his weapon, aiming directly at her, and Ginger froze mid-stride. The world around her narrowed down to that moment. Only moments before her breath hitched in her chest, Alex shouted from the side, "Look out, Ginger!" He launched a stone, hitting the gunman's arm, causing his aim to falter. Ginger didn't wait. She grasped the fawn, feeling its small heart racing against her palm, and dashed back toward Lily, just as Alex charged in, placing himself between her and the remaining poachers. "Stay back!" he yelled, brandishing a broken branch like a saber. Ginger's heart raced. The weight of the tiny creature in her arms felt both heavy and liberating. She was not just fighting for a sanctuary anymore. She was fighting for life itself. But as the poachers circled around, she realized they were still outnumbered. Panic clawed at the edges of her resolve. "What now?" she whispered, fear creeping back in. Alex, unfazed, took a step forward. "We stand together," he said fiercely. "We're not going to let them take anything from us." The poachers looked at each other, igniting a flicker of doubt. Perhaps their arrogance would be their downfall. But as they advanced once more, Ginger clenched her fists around the fawn, determination flooding her soul. The coming moments would define them all. What if bravery was all they needed to turn their fear into a force that could change the outcome? And just then, as the tension thickened in the air, a loud roar echoed across the plains, freezing everyone in place. What now? Would salvation finally arrive? Or would the fight escalate further beyond anything Ginger could have anticipated? The roar resonated across the plains like a thunderclap, cutting through the chaotic tension that hung in the air. Ginger's heart danced between hope and anxiety as she gazed wide-eyed, the sound stirring something primal within her. The poachers, momentarily confused, glanced at each other, their bravado faltering in the face of the unexpected. "Did you hear that?" one of them muttered, uncertainty creeping into his voice. "It's just an animal," replied another, though his tone wavered. "Don't let it distract you." But as the sound reverberated again, deeper and more thunderous, even the bravest of them began to shift nervously. Ginger's heart quickened, fueled by a flicker of excitement. Was it possible that help was coming? "Stay close, Lily," she whispered, keeping her eyes fixed on the horizon. Then, all at once, the massive shape of an elephant emerged from the thicket, trumpeting defiantly. Its ears flared, and its colossal presence seemed to draw the attention of the poachers like a magnet. The poachers drew back, their confidence wavering in front of the mighty creature. They hadn't just hunted animals. They were now staring down the beauty of nature's guardian. "Look at that!" Alex exclaimed, his voice a mix of awe and relief. "It's like a sign." Ginger couldn't believe it. The elephant strode forward, single-minded in its approach, as if it too recognized the urgency of their situation. It stopped, towering over the poachers who stood frozen, the anger fading from their eyes and replaced with a hint of fear. "Get behind the tree," Alex urged, grabbing Ginger's wrist and pulling her toward the thick trunk of an acacia. "We can't lose sight of each other." Ginger ducked low, cradling the fawn to her chest, feeling its quickening heartbeat sync with her own. All around them, the tense stillness was now punctuated with the deep breaths of the giant animal, each inhale and exhale steady and reassuring. The poachers, partially spooked and at a loss, began to argue amongst themselves. "We should get out of here." One yelled. "That thing could stampede us." "Hold your ground. We can't let them win." Another shouted defiantly. But as they debated, the elephant shifted, letting out an ear-splitting trumpeting roar that echoed like a war cry. Ginger could feel the ground tremble beneath her as the poachers finally turned to flee. "Now, Ginger!" Alex yelled. "Let us move." Ginger didn't hesitate. With the fawn nestled securely against her, she bolted alongside Alex. They sprinted towards the edge of the forest, the elephant trailing behind, creating a protective barrier against the threats that had once seemed insurmountable. "Where's Lily?" she gasped, scanning the area. Panic surged through her. "I'm here, Mom." Lily's voice broke through the chaos, and Ginger glanced back to see her daughter emerging from the bushes, her bright eyes wide with wonder. In that moment, Ginger's fear melted into relief. They had done it. They had saved the fawn and gotten Lily to safety, all under the impressive gaze of nature's protector. The poachers had fled, and it felt as if freedom had returned. But just as the adrenaline began to ebb, the realization struck Ginger hard. What would happen if the poachers regrouped? The sanctuary was still under threat, and the elephant might not always be there to protect them. "We can't celebrate yet," she breathed, her heart heavy with concern. And then, as if sensing her thoughts, the elephant turned its massive head toward them, eyeing them with a kind of knowing awareness. Ginger felt a connection pass between them, something more than just shared peril. "What if it stays with us?" she murmured, wonder filling her voice. As the calm settled around them, a new determination sprouted within her. This wasn't just a battle won. It was the beginning of their fight to protect the sanctuary and all the lives within it. But how could they channel this unexpected allyship into something bigger? As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the ground, Ginger realized they had much work ahead of them. The rail journey was just beginning, and she could already feel the pull of destiny calling her forth. What adventures awaited them with an elephant at their side? Ginger held her breath for a moment, absorbing the sight of the elephant. The creature stood proudly, its enormous form silhouetted against the dimming sky, as if embodying all of their hopes for the sanctuary. She felt a surge of strength pulsing through her veins. This was not just a fight for survival. This was a reason to thrive. "Look, Mom, it's beautiful," Lily exclaimed, her voice a sweet melody cutting through the emotional tension. Her eyes sparkled with childlike wonder, and the fawn in Ginger's arms shifted, sensing the warmth of the moment. "Yes, it is," Ginger whispered, still spellbound. The elephant reached out with its trunk, gently poking the air, and something magical flickered between them. Could this gentle giant be their ally? Their protector against the looming threats? The thought sent a shiver of hope through her. With a slow, deliberate movement, the elephant bent its head lower, as if offering its warmth to them. Ginger stepped forward, heart racing, and casually reached out. The moment her fingers brushed against its rough skin, it felt like a promise, a bond formed in the heat of conflict and chaos. "We need to think about how to keep the sanctuary safe," Alex said, pacing a few steps away. "The poachers might be gone for now, but they won't give up this easily." "Right," Ginger nodded, pulling her thoughts together. They had all seen the desperation in those men's eyes. It was just a matter of time before they returned. "We need a plan. If we can rally help from the community, maybe we can patrol the area together. What if we created some sort of wildlife watch?" Lily suggested excitedly. "We could ask people to volunteer." "That's a great idea," Alex chimed in. "But we'll need to educate folks about the importance of protecting the sanctuary. This has to be more than just a temporary fix." As they mulled over strategies to unite their community, the elephant shifted closer, pressing its massive head against Ginger's shoulder. It felt as if it understood their plight and shared their determination. Maybe it could help us," Ginger pondered. "If we could show it to people, they'd see how amazing it is, how worth protecting. It could become a symbol for the sanctuary." The thought sparked something deep within her. If people could connect emotionally with this magnificent creature, perhaps they'd be more eager to defend what they had. Lily beamed, her small fists curling with excitement. "And we could tell its story. About how it saved us. About how it fights alongside us." Heart swelling with new purpose, Ginger caught the elephant's gaze again. She imagined a gathering of families, friends, and children all coming together, united not just in their desire to protect the sanctuary, but in their newfound connection with nature. Just as she shared this vision with Alex and Lily, a distant rumble shattered the calm. The low hum of engines echoed through the plains, biting cold into the heated moment of rebirth. Ginger froze, her stomach dropping. The poachers? Or something worse? Hide! Alex yelled, urgency bleeding into his tone. But where could they go? The trees were thinning, and with the elephant as their only shield, the magical atmosphere shifted into an urgent race against time in the face of new danger. Stay close, Ginger shouted, gripping Lily's hand tightly. With a single glance over her shoulder, she caught the elephant wavering, sensing the change in their mix of hope and fear. As the noise grew louder, an unsettling question clawed at her heart. Could they truly protect the sanctuary? Or was this fight just beginning? The answer hung in the air, heavy and uncertain, as they braced for the approaching storm. What awaited them on the horizon? Would the elephant stand with them when the darkness returned? The noise of distant engines grew louder, rumbling like thunder across the savannah. Ginger's heart raced as fear clenched her gut. She glanced at the elephant beside her. Would it sense the danger? Lily, behind me, she urged, pulling her daughter close. Lily's small frame instinctively folded into her side, eyes wide with both trepidation and trust. They crouched low, shadows against the setting sun, as the approaching vehicles raced closer. Ginger held her breath, her mind racing with anxiety. Would they have time to prepare? History pressed heavily on her shoulders. Each moment felt like an eternity as the powerful engines bore down on them. Then, in an unexpected shift, the elephant moved forward, confidently stepping into view. Its massive presence seemed to embody the spirit of protection, courageous, defiant, and unwavering. Ginger blinked. Perhaps this magnificent creature could be their shield, their very own guardian angel. Stay behind the elephant. It looks ready to protect us, Ginger called out, her voice cutting through the air. Alex breathed heavily, nodding in agreement. Let us hold fast. We've come too far to back down now. The volunteers rallied, finding strength in their unity against the encroaching threat. The silhouette of the vehicles materialized against the sunset. Two trucks, dusty and grim, slowed to a halt before the tent where the battle had erupted earlier. The poachers were back. Time for action had come. Ginger's heart pounded with determination as the men stepped out wearing masks and carried weapons, the embodiment of danger they had fought against. Get ready, Ginger shouted as the men approached. The volunteers, filled with newfound resolve, held their ground. Together, they formed a protective barrier behind the elephant. Look at this ragtag bunch, one poacher called out derisively, brandishing his weapon. You really thought you could stop us? Watch us try, Alex shouted. His voice was a rallying cry that resonated deeply among the volunteers. Ginger's heart was racing, but she remained resolute. You're not taking anything from here. This sanctuary is protected. For a moment the air shimmered with tension. Poachers sneered, faces concealed yet emotions plainly visible, greed and madness clouding their judgment. Suddenly the elephant trumpeted a mighty sound that echoed through the evening air, as if signaling a rallying call for nature. It stepped forward, a colossal fortress of strength that sent ripples of fear through the poachers. Look out! One of them yelled as the elephant moved closer, fending off the threat with its sheer size. Ginger felt a glimmer of hope ignite inside her. Nature had come to their side. Then, without warning, chaos erupted. The elephant charged forward, sending the poachers scrambling, their bravado faltering. The sound of galloping hooves echoed as nearby animals, emboldened by the elephant's charge, surged forward, adding their wild spirit to the fray. Now is our chance, Ginger yelled, a wave of adrenaline coursing through her. She rallied the volunteers around her, hearts pounding in unison with purpose. This was their moment. They advanced, not with weapons but with determination, creating a wall of humanity between the animals and the poachers. Ginger felt alive, bursting with a fierce protective instinct. Get out of here, one of the poachers shouted as he stumbled backward. They'll get us. Not if we have anything to say about it, Ginger shouted back, pounding her chest with each word, sending a wave of courage through the group. Together, Alex bellowed, and the makeshift army pushed forward, seizing their power over the situation. The chaos of the moment unlocked something within Ginger. She realized they were not just fighting for the animals or their sanctuary. They were standing up for hope, for each other, and the very heart of their community. The poachers, realizing they were outnumbered and outmatched, turned to flee, leaving behind a cloud of dust and echoes of anger. The rush of victory surged through Ginger. They had won not just this battle but the spirit of their sanctuary. The spirit of community thrummed around them as cheers erupted. The elephant ambled forth, calming itself and trumpeting softly, as if it too celebrated their triumph. "We did it!" Lily shouted, jumping up and down, her laughter ringing through the air like music. Ginger knelt down, enveloping her daughter in a tight embrace, her heart swelling with pride. "Yes, we did. Together." Tears of joy brimmed in her eyes as she witnessed her daughter's bravery. In that moment, Ginger understood everything had changed. They had found their courage in the face of danger, their unity in a fight for the good. It wasn't just about fighting off poachers, it was about adventure, love, and the spirit to protect. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a blanket of stars over the savannah. Together, they realized they were part of a bigger story, a story of transformation not just for themselves, but for the wildlife they fought fiercely to protect. As they stood side by side with their magnificent elephant friend, Ginger saw the dawn of new adventures, new battles for the voiceless, and new ways to shine a light on the beauty of what truly mattered. They had embarked on a powerful journey meant for change. It was time to return home, but not without the realization that they would share their story, rally their community, and never forget what it meant to stand for those who couldn't stand for themselves. Their journey was just beginning. If you want to see more incredible stories of transformation and adventure, you need to subscribe now, or you'll miss the next unforgettable chapter of life. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. And comment below with your thoughts. How did this story inspire you? Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to feel the power of hope and unity.